This is going to be an interesting video to react to because this Dragon Ball Super has had, in its lifespan of the TV shows, has had its ups, downs, its controversies, its praises. It was breaking the internet with how viral it was when Goku went Ultra Instinct, but then it got made fun of on the internet as well when you saw the artwork of Super Saiyan 3 versus Beerus. This is probably the most that Dragon Ball has ever gotten so much attention on both sides. Both sides meaning good and bad. Excuse me. And some of it was justified, and some of it was not. Some of it, I agree, was people just loving to complain. They just find every little knickknack. But then there was some that was like, yeah, it deserved its backlash from that. But then when it was at the top, it got its praise and it was well deserved. I would say if you had to ask me what was my biggest issue with Dragon Ball Super, it would just be how easily the transformations were. Like Dragon Ball Z, it was like you had to earn it for the most part. And then when Goten and Trunks came along, you realize like even Vegeta made a joke about it. It's a Super Saiyan bargaining sale. But transformations used to mean something. When you saw Super Saiyan 3, they literally had half an episode of Goku transforming and screaming and then just standing there because of the impact. Super Saiyan, so on and so forth. When Gohan transformed against Cell. In Dragon Ball Super, I didn't like how they went from to Super Saiyan God, he did all that ritual stuff with the Saiyans around Goku just for us never to really see it again. Because they went right to blue when Frieza came back. And we didn't see Super Saiyan Red till the Tournament of Power, and then that was just for a second. I didn't like that. Wasn't a fan. It was like Super Saiyan Blue started dominating everything. And then if you read the manga, it was like, wow, Super Saiyan, the original like God, was used a whole lot more than the TV show. And then, a bigger transformation of Super Saiyan Blue that Vegeta had. Then Ultra Instinct, as cool as it was. I just wasn't a fan. And then you saw how Kefla and them got Super Saiyan. The tingling on your back. It was like, that's not how you get. Okay, all right. I just let it go. Excuse me. I just let it go. But I wasn't a fan of that. Outside, there were some other things, but I will say it did give me one of my favorite arcs. I love Goku Black's arc. Goku Black is one of my favorite characters of all time now because of that arc. Especially if you read the manga. Him in the manga was amazing. That scene with him and Vegeta, when Vegeta was beating him down, the almighty, wow, my voice, Prince Vegeta, that was amazing. But overall, it's had its ups and its downs. I'm interested in seeing this breakdown by Key Reviews. It's the rise, fall, and redemption of Dragon Ball Super. One thing I wish, I'm happy to see it in Daima, but I'm going to need some explanation of why it was never shown in Super, was Super Saiyan 4's respect. I love how they put it in canon now. Shout out Toriyama, rest in peace. But it also raised the question. I'm like, okay, so like I was expecting at the end of Daima for some reason they lost memory of Super Saiyan 4. That's why you never saw it in Super. Something like that. You know how these TV shows be doing. But no, it's just he has it, but if you remember when he went against Beerus the first time, I believe he said Super Saiyan 3 was his highest. It was like, no, that's not true now. And like Super Saiyan 4 was never used in any of the arcs. I'm interested in seeing how they do that. But I wish in Super they put Super Saiyan 4 there from the beginning. But it didn't happen. I'm glad it is now. But I'm interested in seeing his take or her take, whoever this is. I've never reacted to this challenge before. But I'm interested in seeing what their take is on the rise, fall, and redemption. Let me know in the comment section what's your best and worst moments of Dragon Ball Super.
Ball Super, one of the most anticipated returns
the video. I'll put the original video in the
history.
description below.
But Dragon Ball Super, one of the most anticipated returns in anime history. But how did a series that started with so much promise stumble through several mediocre sagas, only to rise again as one of the most celebrated modern entries in the Dragon Ball franchise? Let's rewind to where it all began. In 2013, Dragon Ball made a triumphant return with Battle of Gods, after the disaster that was the 2009 live-action Dragon Ball Evolution.
Oh my goodness.
We fans agreed
we don't talk about this no more.
Toriyama himself decided to take the reins and bring the series back to life. And this wasn't just another self-contained Dragon Ball Z movie. No, this was a genuine continuation of the story. Battle of Gods introduced us to Beerus, the god of destruction, and Whis, his enigmatic attendant. It also expanded the lore with the Super Saiyan God transformation, giving us a deeper look at Saiyan history and the hierarchy of power in the universe. Fans loved it, and the numbers didn't lie. Battle of Gods grossed around $50 million worldwide. I still remember trying to figure out how to watch it since I missed the chance to see it in theaters.
I did too.
When I finally did, I must have watched it on repeat for weeks.
Yeah,
For
it
me,
took me a while to
wasn't
get
just
to
a
it.
movie.
I
was
missed it when it was
the
in
Dragon
theaters.
Ball movie. Easily the best up to that point. Then came Resurrection F in 2015, and this time I made sure to watch it in theaters. Frieza was back, Goku and Vegeta were training with Whis, and the stakes were high. It was another massive success, grossing even more than Battle of Gods. Now, I'll admit this movie hasn't aged all that well, some of its charm has worn off, but at the time, it felt like a perfect follow-up. It showed the world that Dragon Ball was still a powerhouse, and fans were packing theaters worldwide.
And I remember though, as cool as Super Saiyan Blue was, when I first saw it, I was like, already? We're there already? Okay. You know, I wish they gave Super Saiyan Blue a little bit more time, but that's just me.
Sent a clear message to Toei and Toriyama. The world was ready for Dragon Ball to return in a big way. And that's how we got Dragon Ball Super. For me, hearing that Dragon Ball was coming back as a full-fledged series felt like Christmas morning. I grew up on Dragon Ball Z Kai and GT, spent hours online watching AMVs, hunting down clips, and even falling for fake transformations like Super Saiyan 5.
I fell for
when
that
the
too
news
a long
dropped,
time ago.
I was beyond hyped. I counted down the days until the
To be
first
real, I don't need any more transformations for a while. You know, I don't know how they're going to add Super Saiyan 4 into this. But if they can incorporate that and like have Super Saiyan 4's transformation get the power of Super Saiyan God or something like that, where he's still in Super Saiyan 4 form, that's like their true form, and then they turn Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan Blue, and Ultra Instinct in that form or something like that. But Super Saiyan 5 and on, can we chill off that? You know, can we incorporate Super Saiyan 4, figure that out, and then maybe take the Super Saiyan God, Blue, and Ultra Instinct infused with Super Saiyan 4, something like that.
Episode aired.
But yes,
with
I did
all
fall for that
hype
Super
came
Saiyan 5
something I
too.
didn't expect. Disappointment.
Here we go.
When Dragon Ball Super started, it decided to retread the Battle of Gods and Resurrection F movies as its first two arcs. Now, I get why they did this. It made the story accessible for anyone who hadn't seen the movies. But for those of us who had already watched them, it felt like we were being forced to rewatch a worse version of something we already knew. At first, I was patient. I told myself, okay, maybe they'll add something new to make it worthwhile. But then came episode 5. Oh man,
that's
if
what I
you
was talking
know,
about.
you know. This was the first big fight in the series.
I was like, what
Goku
the
versus
heck?
Beerus, and it was rough. The animation was, let's just say, it was not good. Characters went off model so often they looked like completely different people. The fight lacked the fluidity and intensity we'd come to expect from Dragon Ball, and the internet wasted no time tearing it apart. Memes of this episode were everywhere, and not in a good way. Unfortunately, the animation struggles didn't stop there. While nothing quite reached the disaster level of episode 5, the quality throughout this arc was inconsistent at best.
I am glad, to
Combine
their
that
credit,
with
they
the
got
fact that
better
the
in time,
story
like
was
when
just
Goku
a
Black and them
weaker
came out.
retelling of the movie, and it was hard to stay invested. However, I didn't expect things to get worse, and yet, that's exactly what happened with the Resurrection F arc. Now, I'll be the first to admit that Resurrection F was never as strong as Battle of Gods. The story,
To be real, I like the
depth, and
battles.
It leaned heavily
I like the fight scene in the TV show of Resurrection F better than the movie. I'll take that back. I like Goku versus Frieza's battle in the movie better. I like the beatdown Vegeta gave Frieza more in the TV show. The movie, it was so short-lived. In the TV show, they gave Vegeta a minute to sit there and beat Frieza down. I guess there were some parts of the show I liked better than the movie and vice versa. But Vegeta's moment against Frieza was better in the TV show.
nostalgia by bringing Frieza back. But at the time, it made up for its shortcomings with solid animation and some really well done fight.
And I hated how the TV
So
show
when
like
Dragon
basically
Ball
kills
Super
Piccolo.
had
I was
the
like,
chance
what?
To adapt this story, I thought, okay, this is their opportunity to flesh it out. maybe add some depth to Frieza's return, or give us more insight into Goku and Vegeta's training with Whis. But nope. Not only did the story remain largely the same, but the animation took a nosedive to levels I didn't think were imaginable for a franchise as massive as Dragon Ball.
Yeah, all the
This
money
brings
they
me
made.
to the elephant in the room, the animation problems in the early parts of the series. The issues weren't because of a lack of budget or low effort. Far from it. The real problem was time. Dragon Ball Super started airing just a few months after the release of the Resurrection F movie. That meant the animators had very little lead time to complete episodes before they aired. With the tight
Why do they be
deadlines,
rushing
the
them,
team
man?
was
Let-
rushed,
give them
and
time.
it showed. At the time, I didn't know any of this. All I knew was that the show I loved so
Yeah,
much
I didn't know any of
was
that either.
struggling, and it hurt to watch. Characters were off-model, fight scenes felt stiff, and the overall quality didn't come close to what I'd come to expect from Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
For me, this arc ended up being one of the worst in the series. In fact, I skipped most of it when it first aired because I just couldn't bring myself to sit through it. And honestly, I don't think I was alone in feeling that way.
No, I
with the
understand what he's
Battle of
talking about.
Gods and Resurrection F
Even as a
arcs
huge
finally
fan of
out the
Dragon
way,
Ball.
the series was now free to tell new stories. This was the moment where Dragon Ball Super could really shine, using the lore introduced in the movies to explore fresh ideas. Enter the Universe 6 Tournament Saga, a saga that brought me, and I imagine a lot of other fans, back to see what Dragon Ball Super was cooking up. The Universe 6 Tournament Saga kicked off with some intriguing new characters and lore. We got Champa, Beerus's
Hit.
equally destructive and hilarious brother, Kaba, a Saiyan from another universe, and Hit, a stoic assassin with time-skipping abilities. Plus, the idea of Saiyans from another universe was a fascinating concept. But despite all this potential, cracks in the series were starting to show. The pacing felt uneven, the stakes weren't as compelling as they could have been, and to be honest, much of the arc just felt boring. For me,
Yeah, it was like
wasn't
filler
until
episodes
Goku faced off
until
against
Goku
Hit
Black
that
showed
things
up.
finally picked up.
I'm telling you, when
That
Goku
fight
Black
gave us the
came,
Super
it
Saiyan
was-
Blue Kaioken
in my opinion, it brought it back up to
jaw-dropping
life.
moment that reminded me why I love Dragon Ball in the first place. Still, this saga seems to be somewhat forgotten. It's rarely talked
Yeah.
about in the fandom, and it's even skipped over entirely in games like Dragon Ball Z Sparking Zero. It's as if this arc, despite its moments, just didn't leave a lasting impression. Then came the Future
There we
Trunks
go.
arc. Now, this one was better received, and for
Now,
good
I will
reason.
say that the one thing I did hate about it, Goku Black's art, was Trunks. That Trunks that we got at the end of Z and this one is not the same. Even build-wise. It was like, but build-wise, it's everything. It was like, it was a whole different Trunks. I was hoping a more mature, like that version we saw that took out the androids and Cell would have been, it came, in my opinion, I think Trunks was done dirty in this Dragon Ball Super.
The darker tone, the return of future Trunks, and the introduction of Goku Black and Zamasu brought a level of intensity that the series had been missing. It felt like Dragon Ball Super was finally stepping up, but even this arc wasn't without its flaws. The ending left a bad taste in a lot of fans' mouths.
Really?
Zamasu's defeat was convoluted, and erasing an entire timeline, that felt like a lazy cop-out rather than a satisfying conclusion.
thought it was cool.
And then there were the character
I thought I
inconsistencies.
liked it. It gave a meaning to when when Zeno gave that button. You know, because I remember watching it. I was like, oh wow, that is true. And to see what Zeno can actually do, you could just say be gone, and it literally disappeared. I mean, I thought that was pretty cool, but that's just me. To each his own.
Goku seemed dumber than ever, reduced to a caricature.
Yes, that's
of his
another thing
former
about
self.
Super.
Future Trunks, one of the coolest characters in Dragon Ball Z, now had blue hair for some unexplained reason. Vegeta seemed
Much
to
tinier.
have forgotten his emotional growth from the Buu saga, and Gohan, just 2 sagas ago, he was at his lowest point ever. It was frustrating to see these iconic characters
I
feel
agree.
like shells of who they used to be. By this point, many fans were asking themselves, is Dragon Ball Super even worth watching? The nostalgia that carried the series early on was
Yeah, that's the
starting to
thing
wear
about
thin,
Goku,
and
bro. Like, I hated that. Like, you know when Trunks basically kissed Mai and Goku, that's one that stings, bro. You see how Goku acts dumb. He doesn't know what a kiss is. Speaking of his wife right there, as much as she has to deal with him disappearing so much, and then Vegeta has to look at you and be like, You don't know what that is? You have children. It's like those moments like that. And Goku had a lot of dumb moments. Like, I hate it. You cannot tell me Dragon Ball Z and Super were the same kind of dude. Besides the name and the art style. No. It was like, come on, bro. Stuff like
the
that.
Inconsistencies were piling up. Something
I felt more for
remarkable
Chi-Chi
happened.
in this
The Tournament
series.
of Power arc was a turning point for Dragon Ball Super.
Yeah.
Right from the start, you could feel the shift in energy. They introduced a brand new opening theme, and it was easily the most hyped one yet. The glossy look that had defined the characters up to this point was toned down, and the animation? Oh boy, the animation finally delivered.
That's why I
This
said they
saga
got
was
better in
Dragon Ball
time.
Super at its most ambitious. A multiversal battle royale with stakes that felt genuinely high. Entire universes were on the line. The introduction of Ultra Instinct brought back the sense of awe and excitement that had been missing for so long.
I was still, in
And
fairness,
I can't
I'm not
lie.
going to front. And I did still say when I saw Ultra Instinct, oh, we got another transformation. But this was awesome. But I'm like, okay, now let's stop there. We got to incorporate Super Saiyan 4, but let's stop here. This was amazing. But yeah, a lot of transformations here.
This transformation pulled me back into the series for the third time. I remember scouring YouTube for theories about Ultra Instinct, what it could be, how it worked, and who could possibly stop Goku in this state. It felt like the entire fandom was buzzing with excitement, and it wasn't just Goku who had moments. Vegeta, Gohan, Android 17, and even Frieza.
I love they
all had
incorporated
standout
Android
moments.
17 and
For the first
Frieza.
time in a long
That was
while,
genius
it felt
for them
like
to
the
do that,
entire
especially
cast was
Frieza.
being used to their full potential. The fights were some of the best in the franchise, and the animation, which had been a sore spot earlier in the series, became a highlight. Episodes like Goku vs. Jiren set a new standard, not just for Dragon Ball Super, but for the entire Dragon Ball franchise. The sheer intensity, the choreography, and the emotional weight of those fights were unmatched. And let's talk about that ending. Dragon Ball Super absolutely nailed the conclusion to the Tournament of Power. In my opinion, it's one of the best endings in the entire Dragon Ball series. The final moments with Android 17's selfless wish and Goku and Frieza teaming up to take down Jiren felt like the perfect combination of everything the saga
worst
had built up
enemies
to.
turn to
Now,
help
I'm not
each other.
saying the Tournament of Power was flawless. It definitely had its issues. Some episodes just didn't hit.
Yeah, I didn't need to
The
see
sheer
certain
number of
battles.
Characters early on made things feel a bit chaotic. But once the tournament whittled down to
Yeah,
Universe
that
7
character,
and
she was
Universe
annoying.
11, the
That
pacing
hard character,
tightened,
oh my
and
goodness.
every
I was like,
episode
please
felt
get her
like an
out of
event.
here.
It was so good that fans were hosting watch parties.
Yeah.
Every week, it felt like the fandom was collectively holding its breath to see what would happen next. Each episode somehow managed to outdo the last. And by the end, Dragon Ball Super had reclaimed its place as a beloved part of the franchise. And just when it seemed like Dragon Ball Super couldn't get any better, the Broly movie dropped.
There we
This
go.
wasn't just a good Dragon Ball movie, it was a fantastic movie, period.
Yes.
I still remember trying to watch this movie at school on my phone. The animation was stunning, with characters given a fresh, dynamic look that elevated the entire
There was a couple weird
experience.
animation
The
moments, but
fights were
overall, yes,
jaw-dropping,
really good.
And Broly was reimagined as a character with depth and emotion. It was everything fans had wanted and more.
Except for
cementing
Goku
Dragon
taking
Ball
Vegeta's
Super's
spotlight.
comeback in a way few
Didn't
could
like
have
that.
predicted. But while the Broly movie was a high point, the anime itself ended after the Tournament of Power. Thankfully, the Dragon Ball Super manga kept the momentum
Yes.
alive with two major arcs.
I'm looking
The
forward to
Moro
when they
arc
show
and
that.
the Granola arc.
Yes,
The Moro
I am
arc
looking
was the
forward to
first
that.
real test of how Dragon Ball Super could evolve without the anime running alongside it. Moro, the goat-like sorcerer who could drain entire planets of their energy, was a villain that felt genuinely fresh. I mean, at least for a while, until the cell similarities started to kick in. But his powers felt unique, and the stakes were huge, with the entire universe in danger.
I like
Yes,
the
this
Granola
arc
art
gave
better.
us some incredible
The inclusion
moments.
of Bardock
Goku
and all that's
finally
amazing.
Mastering Ultra Instinct.
Yeah,
was
I'm not a
highlight,
fan
but
of the ending of the what's his name again? The moral arc. It was dragging after a while. It was like, okay, it should have been over a while ago, and they just kept adding stuff. Goku being dumb. It's like, all right, bro, how many battles you need? Like, you need to finish these. Everybody ain't gonna be your friend, bro. You need to finish this off. And I believe the Granola, this arc, the moral arc, was catering to Goku's dumbness again of always trying to be friends with somebody and let's train next time, which lingered, made the battle longer than it was. But outside of that, it was still really good. But the Granola one, where Ultra Ego Vegeta, Bardock, that, and then the introduction of Black Frieza, that was, I look forward to when that comes out. That's what I'm looking forward to.
What really stood out to me was Vegeta's growth. His
Yes,
trip to
that
planet
too.
Yardrat to learn the spirit fission technique and his redemption to the Namekians both felt like a major step forward for his character. Then came the Granola arc. This
There we
one
go.
had a lot of promise. A lone survivor seeking revenge against the
I wish they make
Saiyans
this
and
into a
Frieza
movie.
for the destruction of his people. Granola was a compelling character, and the introduction of the Heaters brought some fresh dynamic to the story. But the real highlight was the return of Bardock.
There we go.
His flashback not only added depth to the
knows.
Saiyan race, but also gave Goku a more personal connection to
Yes.
his heritage. Vegeta's Ultra Ego transformation, his
It was
own
a lot
version
of character
God's
development in
power-up,
this story.
was also a standout
Bardock,
moment that felt true
Goku,
to his
Vegeta.
character. And just when we thought things were settling down, Black Frieza
Yep,
entered the
Frieza.
scene. Frieza returned with yet another transformation, and this time it was terrifying. Frieza completely wiped the floor with Ultra Instinct Goku and Ultra Ego
We still don't know
Vegeta.
how powerful
It
he
was
really
a
is.
jaw-dropping moment that reminded us why Frieza is one of the greatest villains in the franchise. Both the Moro and Granola arcs were well received for the most part, with some fans even calling the Moro arc the best saga in Dragon Ball Super. I mean,
No,
a few
I wouldn't
months
say
ago,
that.
you could
I like
say
Granola-
anything
Granola
about
was a
Dragon
lot
Ball
better.
Daima without someone going, we wanted the Moro and Granola arc instead. Then there's Dragon Ball Super Superhero, the movie that shifted the spotlight to Gohan and Piccolo. Piccolo's new transformation, Orange Piccolo, felt like a much needed upgrade for his
Yes.
character.
And hopefully
Gohan's
they
new
stop
transformation
having Piccolo
finally
so
put
far
Gohan
back from the
on
Saiyans.
top. Fans of his surely had been waiting a long time for this. Say what you will about the transformation itself, whether you loved it or thought it was over the top, but there's no denying that this movie gave Gohan the spotlight he deserved. And it wasn't just a critical
He just
success.
gotta keep it,
was a
keep
box
training.
office hit, grossing about $86
Stop
million
slacking off.
worldwide and becoming the highest grossing Dragon Ball movie to date. Speaking of Gohan and the superhero movie, the manga took things even further. After that arc, we got a
Yep.
scene that fans had been debating about for some
I
time.
love that part.
Beast Gohan versus Goku. This fight was hype. Even as someone who wasn't reading the manga at the time, I tuned in just to see what would happen. So as we look back on Dragon Ball Super, it's clear that this series has been a roller coaster of highs and lows, from its shaky beginnings to its triumphant moments. But as we reflect on where the series is headed, it's impossible not to acknowledge the heartbreaking loss of Akira Toriyama.
Yeah, rest in
Toriyama
peace.
wasn't just the creator of Dragon Ball. He was the heart and soul of the franchise. His storytelling,
Couple of my
his
childhood,
humor, his ability to balance
heroes
epic battles
passed
with
away.
heartfelt moments, all of it shaped
Him,
not just
Kevin
Dragon Ball,
Conroy.
but anime and pop culture as a whole. Losing him feels like losing a part of what made this series so special. But even in loss, there's hope. Toyotaro, Toriyama's handpicked successor, has shown that he understands what makes Dragon Ball tick. While no one can ever truly replace Toriyama, Toyotaro will carry the torch with respect and passion, hopefully
Respect for you.
crafting new stories that
Hope the
honor
best
the
for you.
legacy while pushing the franchise into new territory. And who knows, with rumors swirling about Dragon Ball Super returning in 2025, it feels like we're on the verge of something big. If it happens, it'll be a bittersweet moment, a chance to celebrate everything Toriyama gave us while embracing how the franchise continues to evolve under Toyotaro's guidance. At its core, Dragon Ball has always been about resilience. It's about rising after you've been knocked down, finding strength in the face of adversity and pushing forward no matter what. As fans, we embody that spirit too. We'll keep looking ahead, eager for the next chapter, because Dragon Ball isn't just a series, it's a legacy, one that will endure, inspire, and forever remind us of the joy, the wonder, and the creativity that Toriyama shared with the world. Thank you, Toriyama.
Yes, thank you. And personally, I want to say thank you to my cousin Brian, who's no longer here. Rest in peace to him. He's the reason I ever got into Dragon Ball. I didn't know what it was, and he used to draw it all the time, watch the shows. And one day I stayed the night at my aunt's house, and he was like, "Yo, come let me show you something." And it was Dragon Ball. It was for Dragon Ball first. I thought it was Dragon Ball Z, but I went back to think about it. I was like, no, it was Dragon Ball. And that was something me and him, a connection me and him always had. Because he was older than me by like 3 or 4 years. And, you know, so he was doing stuff little like the older kids did. But that was one thing me and him always had was Dragon Ball. He taught me how to draw because he drew that. He literally drew just like the cartoon, and introduced me to Dragon Ball Budokai when that came out. Like everything with Dragon Ball related, he introduced me to. And to this day, I'm always a fan. I always would thank him for it. So rest in peace to him, and thank you to my cousin as well. Shout out to Brian. But thank y'all so much for tuning in. Yeah, this was a great video. I'll make sure to put the link in the description. And yeah, shout out. I'll say his name again. Shout out to Key Reviews. I appreciate that. And thank y'all so much for tuning in. I'll check y'all later.